because I need to be clear. What is menopause? What is perimenopause? What's the difference? Like, let's get into some of the specifics.
Yeah, and that's, it's as a writer, Felicia, I know you'll appreciate this. Like, I was shocked to find out once I got straight on what's the difference between menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause, that the word perimenopause isn't even recognized as an official word on like Microsoft Word and like other kind of, digital platforms. If you type in the word perimenopause, it's like wrong, misspelled. That's how little women's health and reproductive cycles like matters, that the word isn't even officially recognized. But here's
bootylicious is in the dictionary. Don't get me wrong. But
right? Like,
okay.
Me?
I got you.
So
I got you.
Essentially, the word menopause is actually a single moment. It is the day when a woman has not had a period for 12 months straight. So you hit menopause. You don't go through menopause.
Okay.
I don't fight people when they use it incorrectly, because it's kind of been, accepted to say like, oh, I'm going through menopause, but you're not going through menopause. You are going through perimenopause. So you can think of the period of time, no pun intended, of before like the menopausal cycle, if you will, is broken into 3 parts: perimenopause, the moment you hit menopause, and then postmenopause. And each one of those time periods are marked by different hormone levels. Okay. So basically from the time you kind of hit your puberty, you have, a level of hormones. They come on all at once, right? It feels like all at once, and it feels like a surge, and then they even out, and you basically have a pretty steady hormone level. They fluctuate with your menstrual cycle, but you have a pretty steady hormone level, during our quote unquote reproductive years, which are 12 to 35, 40, right? Then you hit
unless you're Janet Jackson, because then it could be 49.
Holly Berry.
Then you hit, and this is with joke, but actually real, because nobody's exactly the same. All of these are kind of windows of time. But you say menopause is is the day when you have officially hit 12 months with no period. So the usually 4 to 7 years before you hit menopause is considered perimenopause. And that is the beginning of when our hormones begin to decrease, both estrogen and progesterone, and a little bit of testosterone too. But estrogen and progesterone are the 2 main ones that begin to decrease. And so that's when, they say that a woman's fertility starts to decrease. That's what they're talking about, is effectively that would technically be the beginning of perimenopause. But of course, even if you are beginning to see a decrease in hormones, you can still get pregnant. Fun fact, the second number of women who have the most unexpected pregnancies or unplanned pregnancies are actually women in perimenopause. So it's teenagers, and then
not
women
today,
in perimenopause.
Jesus.
See, that's what my doctor was saying. She was like, you gonna around and find out. You think you in menopause
not
because
today,
your period ain't coming, but you are fertile as a. You go out there.
That's right.
I rebuke you.
48-year-old pregnant woman.
I rebuke you. You don't want to be that Janet Jackson, okay, but everybody else, you don't want to be that woman.
She's rich.
Exactly. Honey.
But you're like, oh, I'm in perimenopause. No, I'm pregnant.
But it's interesting. It's interesting what you're kind of describing here, though, because it means that when you say 4 to 7 years, that means that you may not even know you're in perimenopause. For example, like at one point, my doctor thought I was in perimenopause. I had one hormone panel that looked weird, but then the following up months, it was totally normal. She was like, no, false alarm. Keep you're good.
Yeah.
So like until you actually have a doctor who is monitoring your hormone levels, or you have some way to do that yourself that manages those, that's the only time you'll know you're in perimenopause. Otherwise, you just might be tired and hot, and it might not actually be anything else.
The thing is that, the thing is, you don't actually have to have the hormone panel. That's, and I say that because a lot of health insurance won't do that. It's not covered. And which is, again,
as usual,
you'll see that underlying my entire conversation is the fact that it's obvious that women's health does not matter and that it is not prioritized, and that this is the change and it's just something you have to go through. It's kind of like the party line. In fact, only 1 out of 5 OBGYNs are trained in medical school to actually know anything about menopause. It's not even on the curriculum. So of course, like the idea of doing a panel to check your hormone levels, it's not always an option. And even if your doctor might want to do it, it won't be covered with your insurance because it's considered an elective thing to do. But this is why if we talk about it and we share our symptoms, for example, and I don't like to use the word symptoms because then you medicalize menopause. It's not a dysfunction. A disease. It is not a disease. Broken. It is a natural part of life. And these things do happen. And if women knew that getting hot at night and waking up in a pool of sweat does not mean you're dying, it means that you are probably entering perimenopause. If you got to pee more than you need normally,
that's me, honey. I am peeing all the time. I think I was like, it must be my fibroids. Now I'm going to the doctor on Monday. Thank goodness. A list of questions, honey. A list of questions.
But Felicia, be prepared that your OB, even if she's the best OB, she may not have the knowledge through no fault of her own. It literally wasn't in the medical school curriculum to really drill down on what happens. I mean, they really are like told, we got a day. It's like nutrition. They don't teach the nutrition in medical school either. But menopause is just not on the curriculum really. And so there are there's like 10 common quote unquote symptoms.
Yes, let's talk about them.
Up to 17, up to 37. Like I said, numb fingers and arms. Nobody is saying like, if you have numb fingers and arms, it could be perimenopause. And that is why it is so important for us to share our stories, because once you hear that, oh yeah, Felicia had numb fingers and arms and Ivy had this and so on and so forth, you don't panic. And so if you are between the age of 40 and 50 and you have symptoms like hot flashes, you do have irregular period cycles, you do have vaginal dryness, you do have weight gain, particularly around the middle, you do have thinning hair. My hair started to thin and I was like, oh my God, what is happening? Oh, it's freaking perimenopause. There you get. You do have joint pain. That's also very common. You're not sleeping as well. Ooh. These are all common issues that happen, the manifestations of fluctuating hormones. If you have rage episodes, if you're like, I'm going to kill somebody because they left, a hair on the sink or something, and you're like, why am I so ragey? But on the flip side of that also, if you don't give a anymore about things that used to bother you, there's this definite sense of like, I don't have to care anymore. Like it's almost like a release. You're like, it doesn't bother me, or I'm not going to let that get to me, or I will curse you out because like I don't have enough time to mess around anymore.
So me cursing people out is the menopause because I mean, some of it might have been, I thought it was
it's the perimenopause.